Hello everyone, this is Dushyyk aka Dushyyk and welcome to Dushyyk Writes. Today, the book I am going to be talking about is the story of my experiments with truth by Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, the father of our nation. The book starts with Gandhiji's journey from his childhood in Gujarat. He introduces us to his parents and siblings, friends and other extended family. He talks about him experimenting with meat eating, smoking, drinking, and shamefully recalls his stealing to fuel his bad habits and influences. He goes on to talk about his very early marriage, which he writes, and I quote, I can see no moral argument in such a preposterous early marriage. He goes on to talk about losing his father and how that jolted him. He talks about his struggles as a young barrister in Mumbai and its courts. He talks about in detail his fears and self-doubts as a shy boy from Gujarat who struggles first to get cases in the city and then struggles against his shyness to defend his clients or put across their points. Subsequently, on a job offer, Gandhiji landed on the famous shores of South Africa to forever change the history not only of the Indians living in South Africa but also back in his homeland of India. Gandhiji talks in detail about how he got over his shyness of public speaking not as a vessel of self improvement but as a necessity to speak his outrage and to fight. Gandhiji also speaks in detail about his experiments with forming a new and separate community in South Africa where he and some of his followers were to settle and start a printing press, all the while following the ideal way of living. Gandhiji talks about the horrors of the living conditions in the Indian housings in South Africa while very clearly mentioning that though the local government was responsible for the pitiful conditions, the Indians living in them were also equally responsible for the conditions. He talks about his experiences of participating in World War One, forming a special unit of mostly Indians who helped with the treatment of the wounded soldiers. Throughout the book, Gandhiji keeps talking about the experiments that he carried out on himself and then he taught others. He talks about his experiments with the truth in speaking, eating, non-violence, action, and behavior. He talks about his travels in India through the train, always traveling in the third class compartment. He was appalled by the inhuman conditions in which people had to travel. He talks about how he was introduced to the freedom struggle of India and his ideas and philosophies, which sometimes matched and most of the time clashed with his colleagues in the Congress party. The book abruptly ends in 1915 just after the Nagpur Congress session. Now for my review. Great men don't do different things. They just do things differently. From his childhood to the time he decides to go to South Africa, Gandhiji's life is not very different from most of ours. A middle child with a rebellious streak at a young age, living under the shadow of his father in a conservative home. I also found it quite relatable that the elders of the house come together to decide his future with regards to his education and his marriage. The first vow that he took, that of never lying, I think liberated the scared boy and turned him into a man. You can also embarrassingly feel for a young Mohandas who tries to dominate and bully his young but matured in age wife. This book is designated as the 100 best spiritual books of the 20th century. Once you start reading it and understand how being brutally honest, not to others, but to yourself, can be liberating. The story moves in a linear timeline and is very easy to follow. The translators have done a commendable job in keeping the language simple and thus including readers from a variety of reading categories, from beginners to experts. Throughout the book, Gandhiji has left nuggets of information on various dietary experiments he carried. Though he did not lay too much emphasis on it, Gandhiji was strained by the tear in the relationship that he had with his own children. And sometimes, when he talks of them, you can feel the pull of the father in him. From what I could understand, two things that Gandhiji most regretted were his inability to find common grounds with Muhammad Ali Jinnah and Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar, and the violent turn that the Quit India movement took. The riot in Kolkata also hurt him very dearly. This book demands retrospection and self inspection. Though it took me 8 hours to read, the introspection still continues. I had read one of Dr. Shashi Tharoor's essay where he presents doubts if the type of satyagraha Gandhiji committed and demanded would really work in today's time. If you look at what is happening today around the world, I believe it depends on location. It is easy to absorb everything that your abuser throws at you and not fight back, hoping he will be ashamed of his action and do the right thing. This, if you are living in an advanced, educated, and nurturing civilization like Europe, might still work. However, if you are a specific sect of Muslims in a country dominated by one particular race and its political party, your satyagraha will lead you nowhere. Let me know about your opinions in the comment section below, and please do not forget to subscribe and press the bell icon to get regular updates from this channel. Thank you so much for your time.